Okay, we'd like to welcome everybody today to our fourth session of our spring Fling summer gardening series, and we'd like to welcome everyone today. My name is Chris Lukine, and I'm a program coordinator in Unit 23, along with Gail DeVilbus, who's on today, and we'd like to welcome everyone. We have Deanna Ratermann, and she is one of our local master gardeners. She became a master gardener in 2011 and a master naturalist in our 2016 class. She was part of our third class series for the Master Naturalist program. Deanna's interests span from flowers, vegetables, and I was kind of excited about period plants, which were planted 100 years ago, and we can have her expand on that a little bit, to land stewardship. She also likes to travel and loves to visit the local gardens and parks. One of Deanna's bucket list items is to visit all the national parks, and currently she can claim 10 different national parks that she's visited. We'd like to welcome Deanna Ratermann and thank her for joining us today. Deanna will be doing the herb gardening portion, and then when she's done, she will open up for questions, and then we have a pre-recording from Chef Fairbanks from Rend Lake College, and he has pre-recorded a session today for us, along with the recipes that went out with the reminder. So Deanna, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for asking me to do this. I think it was an honor. I've been in a couple of these classes where we've talked about herbs and then had Chef Fairbanks prepare things for us. Unfortunately, today we don't get to actually taste them, which is a little bit of a disappointment. If you ever get the chance to do that, or wherever you're at in the state with a local chef, I highly advise doing it. You learn a lot. You expand your palate. I definitely can say that I have, and it's a very unique and good experience. So with that, let's talk about some herbs. So I'm going to start out here and kind of what is an herb. So there's two different definitions. The first one, the botany definition, is any seed-bearing plant that does not have a woody stem and dies back after flowering. As we go through this, we'll talk about some that we refer to everything as herbs that do not follow this. This is a very loose definition, in my opinion. And when you look at different herb books, we'll talk about things that meet this definition, to things like laurel, bay leaf, which is a laurel, which is a woody stem, to things such that bananas are actually considered an herb by this definition. So we will go through all that, learn more, and then the noun is just a plant or plant part valued for medical, savory, or aromatic qualities. And I think that definitely expands out of the seed-bearing plant that does not have a woody stem. So there are multiple uses for herbs. There's flavor, right? We'll talk about that, how to cook with them. Scent, you can even use things such as lavender. One of my favorites is lemon balm, that give off a nice scent. They have medicinal purposes. Landscaping, they look very nice in your landscaping. I don't think you only have to grow herbs just for the intent of using them in your kitchen. You can use them. They're great for pollinators. They're great fill-ins in your landscaping, and then crafts. So not going to talk a whole lot about growing herbs, but just kind of a general overall, where and how you can plant them. So for the most part, herbs need full sun. And just like everything else, they need something that's well drained, good soil. They do not require a lot of fertilizer or water, and they're actually pretty pest and disease resistant. So they will hold up and require less maintenance than maybe some of your other plants that you have out in your garden. So here's just a few ideas, right? You can do the formal gardening idea that we see in the background here. You can put them in a container. And I've done that several times. I actually do some containers for my mom, which include flowers. And a couple years back, I was short on flowers. So I'm like, oh, I have some fennel and some other things that I had started and I stuck in there, and she loves it. And last year she had to call me because she had caterpillars on them. We had to talk about what caterpillars were on them. And she proceeded to show my niece them, you know. So there's a lot to them, no matter what kind of space you have. I've done straw bales for the last few years. This is one of mine towards the end of last year. They work great in that. And nowadays you can't help but see, you could even grow them in your kitchen. So even if you live in an apartment or a condo or somewhere that you don't even have much terrace space, you can buy these kits now where you can grow them right at your counter. These are just a few things I want to call out about herbs. So when we're harvesting them, the one thing we're looking at is you can cut them back pretty significantly, but you have to leave about 2 inches on them, and you can start cutting them back as soon as they get past their true leaves. So once they're a few inches tall, you could start snipping the tops off and utilizing those. If you are going outside and picking them, you want to wait until after the dew has dried on them. You don't want to pick them or cut them. You wouldn't pick them. You would cut them with a sharp knife or scissors. You would want to do that after they dry. If you have them, and even if you can't get to them to utilize, say, basil or things like that, you don't want to typically let everything go to flower, because once it goes to flower, it kind of tells the plant it's done and it will start slowing down. So even if you can't use them, get out, deadhead them. For annuals, that would be things that will not come back every year. You can cut them back, like I said, 50 to 75%, leave about 2 inches. For perennials, you wouldn't want to remove more than 1/3 of it at a time. If you're going to collect seeds for, like, say, dill and fennel, you would want to do that once they start turning brown. And one of the key things to remember for herbs, especially when you plan to consume them, is no pesticides, because you cannot consume pesticide. But for the most part, they should not need a pesticide. So we talk about fresh versus dried. So fresh herbs, you can cut, you can put them in water or wrap them in a damp paper towel, put them in a baggie, put them in a jar or glass, and put a baggie of some sort over them. You can put those in the refrigerator for a few weeks and they'll be fine. Or you can chop them up, put them in an ice cube tray, or they make other ones specific for herbs, add either water. That would be great for something like mint. So you could use mint for a drink, lemonade, even if you just wanted some minted water. They'd be great. Chop them up, put them, freeze them in some water, take them out, you know, make lemonade, use them as ice cubes. They'll add flavor to that. Or you can freeze them with olive oil, and that's mostly used for, like, you're going to make soups or things like that. You would just drop that in. Or you can dry them. And if you dry them, they will last for up to about 2 years if they're kept in the appropriate place, which is somewhere that it's cool, it's dry, and it's dark. So you don't want to store them. You see here these jars. They're not dark jars, but you wouldn't want to store them on a countertop or somewhere that they would get any kind of light, because that will decrease their flavor. So for drying methods, you can do air drying, excuse me, where you just lay them out and dry them. You could do it on paper towel, or if you had screens, you could do that. If you put it outside, you would want to have, you know, a tight knitted screen and probably something on top and bottom to keep the bugs out or keep them from eating them. You would want to put them in somewhere they were well ventilated, because you don't want them to mold or anything like that as they dry out. You can take them, say, for lavender, and you could do this for dill, would be another good one. Put them in a brown paper bag, tie a string around it, and hang them upside down. That way, as they dry and the seeds or whatever, you collect them in that bag. Or you could dry them using heat. So you could use a microwave. You could use an oven. I know a lot of people who use an oven. It takes about an hour or two on a very low setting, 200, 250. Or you could use a dehydrator. I would say those are the most common ways. We're going to go on, but I will take a pause for a second if anybody has any questions. Chris, has anything come up?
Let me look on the chat. Not yet. Did I see? You're good.
Yeah, I don't have any question.
So sometimes I talk and rattle on. So.
I'm sorry. It says how long in the microwave?
Oh, that's a good question. I will have to look that up and I will let you know. I will go back and reference that.
Another one, if using paper bags for drying, do the bags need any holes?
There are some that will put tiny holes in it, right? Especially if you're going to tie it off. You don't want to tie it so tight that there's no air movement in it, because that will cause mold and mildew on those, because the moisture in it cannot escape.
Okay, and one more question was, and we can ask it, if basil goes to flower, can you still use it?
You can. Just know that the longer you let, so if you pick it or cut, I should say, if you cut basil or any herb when it's younger, it's more tender. Once it starts to go to flower, it can start losing its flavor. So one thing I didn't say, and I'm glad you asked that question, takes me back to say this. A lot of times they'll tell you, and I think we may get into this a little bit as we go through some specific herbs, depending on what it is, you want to pick it or before it flowers. Things like dill, fennel, you want to do that as soon as it goes to seed, it starts turning brown. But a lot of times right before it flowers is when it has the most flavor in it. The oils are the strongest. Also, once it gets older or more mature, by the time it's flowered, the stems and things start to get a little more tough. So something like basil is a lot more tender and will have more flavor when you pick it younger, definitely before it goes to flower.
To answer the question on microwaves to help you out, you do it in 30-minute or 30-second increments, and it will take no longer than 2 minutes. And you lay your leaves out on a paper towel, single layer. And I did pull that off the internet. There's several really good resources, but no more than 2 minutes and 30-second intervals.
Thank you. So going forward, we're going to go through slides that list specific herbs. I'm kind of going to go through these maybe somewhat quickly so that we can get to the video with Chef Fairbanks. But this is something you guys will get afterwards, so you all can always go back and reference these. We'll just go through them. These are the most common ones that we see. So here's your basil. And this talks about how to grow it, how big they get, the uses for it. I'll tell you something that's not on here. One of the first programs I did with Chef Fairbanks, he made a basil pesto. introduced me to pesto, which I had not tried before, loved it. I've made it since. So there are a lot of things that you can do with it. There we go. Sage. Sage is another good one. It comes in different varieties. If you're just landscaping, it's good for borders. It has a great texture, great color. It's used a lot with, here it says stuffing in meat dishes. This is a perennial for most areas, and you'll excuse me for those that are up north because I can't tell you what the zoning is on this. But down here, it can be a perennial. Thyme is one of my favorite ones. There's many different varieties of that. This one is a perennial for us. It gets flowers on it. This is also used in drinks, cocktail drinks. It could be used, I'm sure, in other non-alcoholic beverages. That's really good. Oregano, of course, oregano, we all think of Italian dishes. It's great for that. It's very aromatic. It will get those white and pink clusters. Parsley, there's a couple different kinds of parsleys. We'll get another one here in a second. This one, depending on where you are, it's biannual. Mine came back this year. It looks great. It's the curly parsley. The other thing about this is it's a great for pollinators. So you'll see a lot of caterpillars on it. And some days you may walk out there and it looks great, and the next day it's half gone or gone because somebody's eating on it. This is the Italian parsley. This one is an annual. Again, it's used for soups and stews, and a lot of these will grow in containers. Rosemary can be a perennial. Mine has come back this year, but I know a couple years ago it died on me in the winter. It just depends on how cold it gets. It can be used a lot with meats. To me, it's becoming very popular with grilling. Chives, these are one that I like a lot. I have some chives, and I love the fact that I can just go out there, snip some off, use them in baked potatoes. One thing I've done a lot is mix it with butter and then use it in your dishes. Bay laurel, this one is a woody plant, so by definition it doesn't fall into the herb category that I shared earlier. I have one of these. I think it's great. Use bay leaves a lot in soups and stews. Garlic chives, we will, same thing, use these in about anything you're making. I'll list a few other ones. I'm going to try to go through these so we can go on. Seed herbs, so these are your dills, your fennel, and coriander. So these are things that you would want them to flower and go to seed before you would collect them. Of course, coriander, cilantro, you can use the leaves and the seeds. And then fragrance, of course, the biggest one is lavender, right? We all love lavender. That one's a little touchy, even down in Southern Illinois. It does like a lot of heat and sun. White rocks around it, I've been told, work great. I've not had success, but I know other people in the area that have. Geraniums, which I think we all think of flowers and not as an herb. Mint, the one thing I'll say about this is if you plant mint, I have some mint, I love it. There's several different, you can get chocolate, orange, pineapple, and how many different flavors of mint can you get nowadays. I would suggest always planting this in some kind of container because it will spread and become invasive. And once it's in your landscaping, it's very difficult to get out. Some other specific ones, there's the lemon balm. I love that just because I love the flavor or the scent. And some of these, you know, it's great to have around if you have a patio or an area you like to sit out. You can plant some of these more fragrant ones and they can help keep the pests away. And then there's always color. So we have our, I'm not even going to say this because I never can say this word and I don't know why, but we always think of these as a flower, not an herb, but you can actually eat the flowers, put them in a salad. Borage, I like the flower on those a lot. I don't know why I can't say this one. Somebody pronounce that for me. Gail.
Calendula.
Correct.
Calendula.
Again, I see these a lot. I think the more as a flower and less as an herb, but you can eat the petals. And a few other ones, the bee balm that we're familiar with, rue. And then, you know, there are some you can cut them and propagate them and bring them indoors, or if they're in a small container, you can bring them indoors, put them in a window where there's significant sunlight, mostly facing south, and you can have herbs all year long. So that's where I'm going to stop for now, and Chris is going to take over, and she's going to share the video with us from the chef, and then when we're finished, we can answer any more. I can answer any more questions anybody has, or we can continue to talk more herbs.
Okay, I'm going to start the video here in just a second. There is a couple. Do you want to try to answer? Then that way, if they have to go, one of them was the best way to preserve cilantro. Do you have any recommendations? And another one was like that they have cilantro that it doesn't seem to last all summer. I know at the community garden, we actually succession plant. So we do an early cilantro and then we do a little bit later to do later into the fall, because during the summer it tends to bolt or goes to seed, which if you want to use a seed, that's a great aspect. But we do an early planting and a late planting. Is there any way that you preserve it?
So I would think that would be best to either freeze it or to dry it. And that's true. They don't tolerate the heat of the late midsummer. And so yeah, plant a little bit in the beginning, or maybe plant the second ones where they get a little bit more shade in the middle of the summer when the heat comes on. But to me, I would either dry or freeze.
All right, and one more was as we're leading into our cooking part of this, pesto can be made with parsley. It's also very good. It was recommended. It's made the same way that you can make it with basil. So that may be another one to highlight if you have a lot of parsley growing. So, all right. So I am going to go ahead and we will have you stop sharing, if you would, for a second, Deanna.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to start our second session of part of this, which is going to be our chef. And let me go ahead and bring it up. Okay. Can you see it?
I can see your files.
Okay. Let me see. Can you hear it or not yet?
Nope.
Not yet. Okay. So let me. Right. So let me see here. Stop. Start again. So let me screen share it. You see my files on there. So let me share my sound, optimize clip. Let's start the clip again. Can you see it?
Still seeing your file folder. So is it shifting to another monitor?
It started on mine. That's what
It might take a while to load up.
see. Let's see if we can.
Pretty much there. So
Is it loading?
I can hear him.
You can hear him. You can't see him.
Can't see him.
okay, hopefully everybody can hear me.
Can you see it?
Test the microphone. I believe I am on that.
Yes.
I do have to hit
You can
reverse
see it?
on
Yes.
And you can
Yes.
hear it?
screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm gonna flip upside down for a minute, and we're pretty much there. So I'll try to stay in front of the camera here, because I can move the camera around instead of being in the ground. Hi, my name is Chef Jeff Fairbanks. I am one of the culinary instructors here at Rend Lake College. I wish we were doing this face-to-face. It would be a lot nicer, just because I enjoy hanging out with you guys. I learn a lot when I come to those spring herb classes. I like all the goodies that I get. I get to take some herbs home, things like that. But this year we have to do it just a little bit differently. Hopefully by fall, we'll be able to go ahead and meet face-to-face, so that's going to work a little bit better. I am in our upstairs kitchen. You can't see a lot of it right now, but we're going to do a little bit of a cooking demonstration here, just to kind of cook with some of the products that we talked about doing for this. So what Christina and I talked about doing cooking-wise for this class was cooking with brassicas, things from the cabbage family. So broccoli, I'm going to use some Brussels sprouts today. All of your cauliflowers, all those different things. And we're going to do a couple of recipes with those. They're fairly simple, they're fairly quick. The thing that I like about these recipes is you can change them up. And I'll talk about that as I'm kind of going through the recipes too. So you can change the ingredients depending on what you have. You don't have to use exactly the same ingredients as I have. You also can alter the size of these very easily if you have a lot of product coming out of your garden. And then
Jeff Fairbanks is wearing a mask.
The last time we got together, so today I'm doing a stir fry with vegetables.
I can hardly hear him.
I also want to do what's called a barrel, which is a French recipe. So hopefully all of you are interested in that type of stuff. I like to do some different things just to kind of change it up. And so today I'm actually going to start with the barrel. The barrel is simply a fancy term for poached vegetables. The original barrel recipe, if you've got the recipe packet and you're reading through that, actually was made with artichokes, and those were stuffed with mushrooms, and then it was poached in a very flavorful, rich broth of wine and butter. You can use water or chicken stock. Most barrel recipes use water. Chicken stock, but today we're using some chicken stock.
People are starting to drop off.
These are really wonderful when you get those done. You can have them as a side dish of vegetables, or you can have them as a main entree, maybe over some pasta or something else like that. This also would go really wonderful with gnocchi. And so what we're trying to do is take the water, take the stock, we're trying to amp it up and flavor it up. So I'm going to bring the camera down now because this is a cooking station. I have a camera right up overhead. I've got a remote control here so I can aim it down. And that actually helps you to kind of see better what we're doing. These are nice. They're induction burners, so I don't really have any flame in the way. And I'll kind of get started and go through the ingredients. So I have a saute pan here. I'm heating it up. I don't have it really warm yet, so I'm going to turn the temperature up. I've got an ISO control knob here that I can do that with. And I'm actually going to start by grabbing the recipe so we can kind of follow along through it. It's not a real complicated recipe. I don't want to make this too complicated or nobody will do it. What I like to do when I get ready to put the recipe together, you can kind of see here, is gather all my ingredients and get them cut up and ready first. It just makes cooking more enjoyable. And then I clean up my mess from that. And that way when I get done cooking, I don't have a sink full of dirty dishes. Because no one likes to make a big healthy meal of fresh vegetables and things like that, and then turn around and have to clean up a huge mess afterwards. So I have a pound of Brussels sprouts, and I've ordered those. I'm actually going to zoom in just a little bit because I want you to be able to see how these are cut. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit slowly. Get it pointing in the right direction. See if I can get that. That's not. We'll go real close. Go real close on the ingredient. Okay, I think that's about as far as I can zoom in. So basically, it's just a Brussels sprout. All I did was cut it along the core. I trimmed just a little bit of the end off, and I cut it lengthwise from top to bottom, and I quartered those. If they're really small Brussels sprouts, you can half those. You really can half those. The reason you don't want to cut the core end off is just like any other head of cabbage. It will fall apart. We kind of want these to maintain and be intact. So that's what we're really looking at there, is maintaining the shape and the size of what we're cooking with. I also have some carrots. Now the carrots, what I've done with the carrots is I slice these into long, skinny strips. They're just kind of like noodles. They cook quicker that way. They're more fun to eat. They're easier to stab with a fork. I like doing it like this in a salad. It works really well. And it's really easy to do. All you have to do is peel your carrot, and then you just don't stop peeling. All you really have to do is just keep peeling with a peeler down the length of the carrot. You'll end up with a nice little pile of carrot ribbons, and it looks very nice in this recipe. Especially if you're serving this over pasta, it will mix in nice and well with the pasta, and so it's really good there. Okay, I have some leeks. Leeks are something I like to grow in the garden. They grow really well. The nice thing about leeks too is if you don't use them, they're kind of like green onions. They'll come up every year. Leeks are related to everything in the allium family. So you have your garlic, you have your shallots, you have all that stuff. Your regular onions, red onions, green onions, spring onions, or scallions as they're called. And what I've done is I've just sliced these really, really thin. So I literally just cleaned my leek, and then all I did was take little thin slices, cutting it up. The leek just looks like a giant green onion. And I did up into the green a little bit. White part only is what you normally use, but you can go up into the green just a little bit. Leeks are a little firmer or a little more fibrous than other onions, so when you cook those, you really have to sweat those down to try to get them tender. They are milder in flavor than an onion. I would say probably even milder than a shallot if you're using a shallot. So there's something very, very nice. They add just a little bit of something to the recipe, and they add some color. So that's leeks. You do want to make sure leeks are usually grown in kind of sandy soil. So you do want to make sure that you kind of wash them really well. Make sure that you don't have any sand on them. Just trim the root end off and the slices and thin slices going up to it. I have 4 cups of chicken stock here. You can use water as well. You can use your own fresh homemade stock if you want to use that. I have about 3/4 of a cup of a good dry white wine. This is actually a Chardonnay. Chardonnay, it's an unoaked Chardonnay. I really don't like using any oaking, but any type of white wine that you like, as long as it's not too sweet, you can use that. I have 3 garlic cloves I've minced up. Once again, this has a lot of stuff from the rest of the allium family in it. I've got 3 tablespoons of butter divided, so I have 2 tablespoons in this one. I have 1 tablespoon for finishing at the end. I have a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme here, and they're very easy. I just like using them just right on the sprig like that. They're very easy to fish out of the recipe. The little leaves will come off by themselves. When you're using fresh herbs, since we're talking about fresh herbs in the spring, thyme is one of my favorite ones. I just love the smell of it. It's very rich and buttery. Don't add it until closer to the end of cooking. It will maintain their color. It will maintain the fresh flavor. The aromatics will come out of it. So really, if you're looking at doing that, use your herbs a little closer to the end. Or you can add some at the beginning. If you're looking for some depth of flavor, then you can add some fresh herbs at the end to kind of pick up the flavor there. Okay, I've got a little bit of lemon juice. This is freshly squeezed lemon juice. You can use real lemon, whatever type of lemon you want. But I like freshly squeezed. You just have to remember that freshly squeezed is always going to be a little stronger than it is if you are doing a something that comes out of a jar, a package you bought from the store. Okay, then I've got some olive oil. Now, in your recipe, it says divided. I actually have olive oil here. I'm just measuring it by eye. I've done this a lot. So it's basically 3 tablespoons divided. I'm just adding a little bit to the pan. That's what we're going to get our stuff sweating with. And then lastly, I have some salt and I have some white pepper. We want a little bit. We have to balance out usually acidity, the lemon, with some salt to balance that out. And then we also have some white pepper. So it's a fairly straightforward, simple recipe. And then at the very end, lastly, to finish it off, I have some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. I know that's kind of hard for you to see. I can't zoom in anymore, but I have some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. That'll go nicely over the top of it. So I'm going to move the camera so I can see I've got my pan. I'm going to start heating that up. So I'm going to see if I can swing the camera over a little bit more. I'll bring it up a little bit. Whoops, too far. Whoops, too far. We have an auto thing on this, so it likes to. Come on. Go slow for me. There we go. I got it my spot. So the first step says to heat a medium saute pan with 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of the olive oil. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of the olive oil in there. I'm going to put my 2 tablespoons of butter in there. The induction burner is going to go very fast. I'm literally just letting that butter down. The butter will help the olive oil to keep from burning. You don't have to use a really good, high-quality, extra virgin olive oil for this. You can just use just a regular generic olive oil with it. Usually, if I'm going to use a really good olive oil, I'm going to use it when I am doing a fresh salad or something like that. Or if I want to kind of, I'm going to throw my leeks in there. Now, what I want to do is I want to sweat these leeks, and it says be careful not to brown. You got to kind of break them up. Kind of break up the leeks, bring it around. It's okay to have some larger pieces. I've got one sitting on top of another one there, so I kind of want to make sure that I get that kind of broken up a little bit. I'm just going to sweat this off, and this can take anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. Soften the leeks. When you see the steam coming up, it's actually a pretty good indication that you're getting it pretty hot and it's starting to soften. In this recipe, we're going to be cooking it boiling for a while, so it's not going bad. And I'm going to add 3 cloves of garlic. Now, on your garlic, you may want to use less, just according to personal taste. Generally, the older the garlic is, the stronger it's going to be. Also, the more you chop up your garlic, the finer you chop up, the stronger it's going to be. So throw the garlic in there, but the main thing you want to do is you don't want to burn the garlic. Usually your nose, if you're kind of waving like this, you can smell the garlic. As soon as it heats up a little bit, you're waving the garlic, it's usually pretty good to go. And then we'll go back to the recipe, and it says to add the Brussels sprouts. So we're going to throw all our wonderful Brussels sprouts in here. If some of the leaves come off, it's not a problem. And we're going to add our carrots. So this is going to be very colorful. We're going to throw our carrots in there. And then we're just going to kind of toss them. You want to get these coated with the butter. Make them coated with butter. We want to warm them up or heat them up. And what will happen? The chlorophyll will activate from the heat, and it will start to turn kind of a bright green. So your Brussels sprouts will start to green up quite a bit. So we'll let those cook. It usually takes, once again, about 2 to 5 minutes to get your Brussels sprouts just kind of up to the point where they are kind of nice and green. We're not going to wait that long. We don't have to wait that long. You can kind of see this looks like it would go over a pasta really, really nice. And then at that point, when they start to turn green, we're going to add our wine. So we have 3/4 cup of wine. I'm actually going to bring my temp up a little bit higher here. I want to come up to the boil. We're going to add our wine. You want to add your wine to the hot pan. You want to be glazed. Basically, if you get anything that's round on the bottom, you want to deglaze it a little bit. Always always want to add any type of alcohol. It does not matter. Always stand back to make the can flame up. You should hear a nice sizzle. And then what we want to do is we want to cook off that wine. You don't want to just have that raw alcohol wine flavor in this. If you didn't want to use the wine, if you don't want any alcohol in it, I'm going to choose more lemon juice. The wine adds kind of a nice softness and roundness to the recipe. So we're going to let those alcohol vapors cook off. The nice thing about any type of alcohol is alcohol has a lower boiling point than water. So with it having a lower boiling point, once it hits about 170, 171 degrees, the alcohol will start to cook off. I've got some vapors coming out of the pan here now. We're probably not picking up on the screen. At the same time, I've got some vapors in there. So that's just kind of nice. My Brussels sprouts are starting to turn a little bit green. We want to get these vegetables basically crisp tender. We don't want them cooked down into mush. We want to get these vegetables tender, but we don't want to get them crisp tender. So I'm just letting the alcohol cook out now. Put a nice colorful pan here. Everything else. I'm actually smelling the alcohol now. See where I'm at, making sure that I'm getting all of that alcohol cooked out, and it's getting pretty close. And then at that point, we're going to add the chicken stock, more water, and on the side of the side, 4 cups of chicken stock here. I'm going to add that. It seems like a lot, but serving this with a pasta or something like that, you want to make sure that you are getting enough. This is very brothy. It's a very brothy vegetable dish. And you're trying to extract and mingle all those flavors together of the wine and the butter and the olive oil and everything that's in that. And then once we get our chicken stock in there, then we're basically just going to reduce this down by half. You don't, if you want to, you don't have to reduce it down all that way. It's just fine. You can reduce it by 1/4, but the whole point, we're going to bring this up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, then we are going to go ahead and check our vegetables from time to time. We want to see when those Brussels sprouts get tender. We want the carrots to get a little bit tender. If you wanted more snap or more crunch out of your carrots, you actually could add the carrots in a little bit later. You can save some of your carrots back. So you can add those in. It should come up to a boil fairly quickly on this induction burner. We're starting to get steam already. And then we're going to let that produce until it's reduced by half. Now, I want to add a little lemon juice now, but I don't want a lot of lemon juice. The nice thing about the acidity of the wine and the lemon juice is it will help to keep the carrots bright orange. It will help to keep the green vegetables a little bit cleaner. Acid. You just have to be careful. Don't add too much. That lemon juice. Acid will make green vegetables turn kind of a grayish color if they're cooked in it too long. So you really just want to kind of just add a little bit. We can always add more at the end. And this is enough. If you serve it with some pasta, or if you wanted to, you can serve this over rice. We're going to do the stir fry later. Maybe a nice brown rice. It'll go very well with it. That nice frothiness. You can serve that over, and it'll work really well. And then if you have other fresh herbs, you can throw some other fresh herbs in there. Not quite too big of a problem. You can kind of mix and match. If you don't want to use Brussels sprouts, let me zoom that out now. This has just got to sit here and boil. So we'll zoom back out, slowly backing out. It should be on the back. Up just a little bit. Keep back the face, down just a little bit so you see it again. Alright, so we're just going to let this cook down a little bit. Like I said, we want it to reduce. I'm getting a lot of steam now. I'm getting some nice production out of it. The butter helps a little bit with that. The butter is going to blend. The flavor is all going to come together and melt. Remember, the lemon juice is kind of to taste. I do want to go ahead and put a pinch of salt into this. I don't want too much salt. I do want a little bit of salt. So I do want to put a pinch of salt into that. And then I'm going to add a little pinch of white pepper. If you ever wonder why chefs season from up here, usually that's because they want the seasoning to spread out. If you season too close, down too close to something, it just all comes up in versus season something from really up high like this. Works a little better. Your spices kind of spread out a little bit. Have that nice rolling boil real quick. I love these induction burners. They work really, really fast. And I'm just taking my vegetables as I go. And we're getting some reduction out of it. I want to reduce and concentrate that broth. Didn't take too long. I've got a pretty good cloud of steam coming up. Get that little bit of reduction done. I'm checking my wine is cooked almost all the way out. So what I'm going to do now is turn that down just a little bit. I'm going to pause the video because this will probably take about 10 to 15 minutes to produce. So there's no sense in you guys standing here for 10 to 15 minutes when I can just turn around and pause the video and then restart it when we're ready. And then I'll be back. We'll get to see the finished dish. Okay, and we're back. So, what I've done, I've got a little bit of reduction out of the broth. I stopped a little short and only reduced by about a quart. Basically just because I didn't want to go too much farther. So it's in pretty good shape. And I'm going to bring my heat back up now. I want to kind of simmer it, and I'm going to finish the dish. So, I'm to the point where my broth is reduced down enough. Now I need to start using that super sensitive organ that we have stuck right in the middle of our face. So I have to taste the broth. I have to kind of see where I'm at on seasoning. I added a little salt, I added a little bit of lemon juice, I added a little bit of white pepper. I just want to kind of see where I'm at. I checked my vegetables already. My vegetables are great. They're crisp and they're right where I want them. I still have to finish it off with my thyme. Oh, that's really, really good. I think I'm going to go ahead and add my thyme. Now, on your thyme, if you don't want to have the whole sprig in, you just grab the top of the leaf. You literally just pull down backwards and strip those thyme leaves off. The thyme will go very, very nicely. I usually pick the tops off, and then you're going to get that instant blast. Right now, I'm getting an instant blast of that herbaceous is coming up. And just a couple of sprigs of thyme. I'll probably get about 3 because I really like thyme. But you can also garnish it with a nice little piece of fresh thyme. I'm going to just a touch more salt. I don't want a lot of salt. There's a decent amount of salt in this. I do want a little bit more bite. So I'm going to throw in just a little bit more white pepper because I'm not getting a lot of that. Usually, when you're tasting something, with peppers and white peppers, you'll get it like right here on the back of your throat. So when you swallow, wait a minute. If you don't taste the pepper right away, wait a minute. Try to swallow, and that flavor will linger on the back. I want to hit this with just another touch of olive oil. And then I want to finish with my last little bit of butter. And let that kind of melt in. And I'm going to stir all of that in. That butter finishing at the end instead of cooking in is going to make this broth just that much more richer. Just that much more buttery. If you can't add dairy products, you could substitute another butter product. It's just not going to add the creaminess to it. If I couldn't use butter, if I had somebody that was lactose intolerant, I probably would get some lactose-free cream. Because you can buy that. It'll work better than butter, and then just add a touch of the lactose-free cream to this. That's going to add that brownness and deliciousness to it. So we've got that finished off. And stir it up. Taste it again. And it's a wonderful smell. I mean wonderful. The cabbage, if you don't overcook the things from breast fry, you're not going to get those sulfurous compounds coming out of it. You're going to get a nice, clean smell coming out of it. It's the only time you get that rotten egg smell coming out of things from the Brassica family is if they're way overcooked. So just don't overcook your vegetables. We could have thrown some cabbage in this. We could have thrown some cauliflower. Cauliflower would go really, really nice. Think of butter and wine and lemon cauliflower. It's getting even richer. Just one more little touch of lemon juice. I think it'll be there. I just want just a little bit more bite to it. The pepper's about right now. We'll just stir that in. And then for serving, get this stuff out of the way. Remember, we have just that little bit of Parmesan cheese. We're going to finish up over the end. So for plating, just a nice little shallow dish. If I was going to do some pasta, I can do a nice little bird's nest of pasta in here. Serve that right over the top. I like to put them on what they call a charger, or in the kitchen we will call these an underlying plate. So it's all heated back up now. I can shut it off. I want to get a few of my vegetables. So I'm using a slotted spoon. Get some of my vegetables. And like I said, it's going to make enough for 4 side vegetable servings. I stopped the Brussels sprouts just in time. We're starting to get just a little bit. We're starting to turn these. So a nice little pile of my vegetables on the inside. We'll zoom back in so we can see this. And then I'll go down to the plate. I will zoom in as far as I can. And down just a little bit. And then see if we can zoom in even farther. Just a little bit. And zoom in. Oh, we can get even closer. Cool. Camera. So once again, I have a nice banana plate. Now, once you've got that in the bowl, after I get to that point, I'm going to want to take a little bit of the broth. It is wonderful. Take a little bit of my broth. I'm going to ladle it in the bowl, probably about 6 fluid ounces. If you had a pasta with this, that'd be really, really lovely. I'm going to hit it with just a little bit of Parmesan cheese over the top. Just a little bit, don't need a lot. Just enough to make it a little creamy. And then lastly, we're going to garnish it with just a sprig of thyme because it gives that wonderful floral sense. So just a little sprig of thyme coming up, and that's our dish. So this is a barragoul of vegetables. It's basically just vegetables, a little bit heartier vegetables, poached in a either water or chicken stock, white wine, a little bit of butter, a little bit of olive oil, some seasonings. Very simple, very clean. This is very spring-like. Some fresh peas around this would be nice also. And like I said, some cauliflower working this excellent. Anything that you really want to use it. Maybe served over the top or with a little bit of pasta slice. It makes a fantastic dish. I'm trying to hold that so you guys can see it. I'm trying to find my camera. It's a little bit hard to do, but wonderful. Very light. Can be served kind of as a starter before a big heavy main course. Something that's gonna work really, really well.
Okay, so we wanted to see if we had Deanna, are you back? Stop sharing and we can have some questions.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so a couple of the other questions was, as they were here, is fennel the one that you had in your picture, which was the bronze fennel? Is that the one with the bulbs for the summer?
Oh, I did not take these pictures, so let me look at it again. I would say yes.
Okay, and another one was, let me go back up. We've had a few more questions. And one was, I'm looking at raising herbs and other food plants, not only for food, but also for critter deterrents. What lavender do you recommend for Southern Illinois? So I know that we have Grasso is one, and I know that they have a super lavender that they have a name that's called, it's a variety that's super. So I don't know. And then there's a satchel kind. I know that they grow here locally. Do you know of any others possibly?
No, and I'm going to admit I'm poor at the specific names. Trying to think, there's someone in Southern Illinois who grows, and I cannot think of the name.
Her name's
that she
Charlotte
has.
Clover.
Charlotte Clover.
That-
Okay.
Charlotte Clover. Yeah, she works for country companies down in Anna, and she has a lavender farm out from Cobden.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Sure.
Do you know of what varieties that she might grow?
I think she grows 3 or 4 different types of varieties.
Oh, that's cool.
So, you know, they have a real long bloom time, and they get certain heights for certain applications. But they're real knowledgeable about it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mary.
Sure.
And we had another question. Which herbs can be used as companion plants for vegetables to discourage certain insect pests?
So I would say any of yours that have the stronger scents to it, right? Basil, sage is supposed to be really good with tomatoes, your lemon balms, your mints. Oh, I'm trying to think. There's other ones.
And probably some of your scented geraniums might help too, kind of being there, being that scented.
Yes, that's true.
Another one here is I'm reading down, and we may not get to all of them, but it says, I'm a reflexologist. I can't spit the word out. What herbs would you recommend for stepping and utilizing for hands and feet soaking for therapy? That's a new one for me. I don't know, Mary, or maybe someone else on might have a suggestion also.
I would think mint, because, you know, like spearmint or peppermint are real refreshing, and they're real cooling on your feet and on your hands. That would be my thought.
All right. And I'm scrolling down, I'm sorry. And he was, and when I apologize, Chef Fairbanks was wearing a mask because he had a class going on as he was recording with us. So we will share that whenever we go through it, and possibly you can hear it a little better on yours. Let's see. And everyone says it looks yummy. A demonstration. Pesto. They would have liked the pesto demonstration. So maybe we definitely recommend that next time. Thank you for that. Let's see. We have a lavender farm in Buckner, Illinois. Basil, mint, and marigolds help with pests in vegetable gardens. And let's see. Proven Winners has Sweet Romance Lavender, which is awesome. Debbie K, and if she's still on, she recommends that as a lavender. And also lavender is another one that's been recommended for the reflexology. And then Mary shared the Shawnee Hills Lavender Farm article. Thank you for that, if anyone's interested in it. Right, is anybody else have any questions that you'd like to have answered, or any talk about the different types of herbs that you want to use, or you have any questions on for this summer? You're welcome to unmute and ask those questions.
I will say a couple things that I didn't mention when I was going through it, that kind of had notes and looked over. You know, there are things you can take. Dill is one that stands out. You can do basil. You can grind that up and mix it with sea salt, right, and flavor your salt. I know salt isn't necessarily healthy, but a lot of these herbs are good for substituting salt too. You can infuse olive oil with them. Many times you're going to want the herbs to dry out before you put them in, because if they have a lot of water, if they hold a lot of water and you put them in the oil, that does not mix so well.
And Majo did ask, is there an herb good for arthritis?
Yes. I'm drawing a blank. It starts with a T.
Tarragon, maybe? Or tarragon?
No.
Turmeric.
Yes, thank you. I'm like, we just had this conversation with my nephew who's in med school about my dad and his arthritis. So that is a big thing. And actually said, I was asking my nephew about it, and he said that, you know, there's a lot of talk and a lot of suggestions on that.
So turmeric being a spice, you can make a almost like what people make a roux, kind of a thick paste, and you keep it in your refrigerator and you make a tea out of it. And it takes away inflammation. So there's some actual science behind it.
All right. Well, thank you, Deanna, for joining us today, and everybody for joining us for our, oh, Majo says, I thought so. I wanted to verify. So thank you very much for answering the questions, and everyone that joined us today. We're glad that you joined the Spring Fling series, and we appreciate you taking your time and afternoon with us. We will have it posted on our YouTube channel, and we'll have more information that we'll be sending out to you on that. And again, thank you for joining us today.
I just thought I would mention that the herb used for arthritis, turmeric.
Turmeric, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Curcumin. It's a derivative.